Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to the ninth episode of the Mindful Steward podcast. Um, Today I am having a conversation with my friend Brooke Alexander, and she actually has a podcast of her own as well. It's called the Brooke Alexander Show on iTunes. So Brooke is actually a mindset and business coach here in Toronto. And what she does is she helps people get in the right state of mind and kind of organize their strategy for success so that they can actually accomplish the things that they're trying to achieve. So she has a lot of great information to share, and she knows a lot about personal development and the techniques and strategies that can really help you make a difference in your own life. So her and I kind of discuss our own path of self-development and personal discovery, and I think we get on to some pretty cool topics. So I do think you will like this episode. If you do want to follow the podcast, feel free to subscribe on iTunes or SoundCloud. I am going to be releasing some resources over the next month, so you can also keep up to date with that as well. All right, and without further ado, I will get this episode started. All right, so how do you want to start this?
I don't know. How do you just do it however you normally do it? Because I don't record in person, so I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever way you found to be the most comfortable.
True. Well, I guess sometimes I introduce the person, but this is kind of going to be a mutual thing where we both use this. So it's a little bit different.
Okay.
So yeah, just tell us about yourself, Brooke.
Okay. My name is Brooke. I'm a life and success coach. I use a bunch of different modalities, so hypnotherapy, NLP, EFT, and time techniques. All really cool stuff. And I usually just help women, well, not just, but I help women start businesses. So dealing more with the mindset stuff, because that is really what people need help with. Anyone can start a business. You can go online and look up 10 steps on how to start a business, how to start a YouTube channel, how to start a blog, whatever. But people need more than that. People need more help than just that. And that's the stuff that usually holds people back.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the hardest part about running a business is actually feeling and believing that you can actually do it. Mm-hmm. Because it's a scary thing, and if you're somebody who has a lot of self-doubt, then you're going to struggle in a lot of different times.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been brought up to think that the way to success is to get a good job, have someone pay you a salary, get a house, get a car, get kids, but not everyone wants that, and that's not the only way to success or happiness or whatever. So I think we're just kind of breaking out of that mold now and realizing that that doesn't fit how the world works right now. So
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't want to get off topic right away, but when you say that, does that mean that you were raised to believe that that's what success is?
Yeah.
Because I was. That's what I was always told growing up.
Yeah, exactly. I saw my parents both have their jobs. We had 2 cars, 2 kids, went to high school. I went to a Catholic all-girls high school. So that was very you must follow this path, this thing, do this. This man up in the sky is now going to dictate the rest of your life, and you need to do what this God tells you. And it was really a path, and I never fit into that path ever. I got detention. I got suspended from school because I just was I don't fit into that. That's not what I want. And then it took me a really long time to realize that I didn't have to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I guess I defined success that way too, just because I was always told that. And I was kind of a young person, wasn't really thinking for myself yet. And as soon as I started thinking for myself, I totally changed that perspective. I realized that that's not what I define as success. Mm-hmm. There are people who definitely succeed in that way.
Yeah,
but
it can work.
Yeah.
It can work, but it just doesn't have to be the only way.
Definitely.
So anyway, before we get too into it, can you intro yourself and tell the listeners about you?
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I kind of just see myself as a normal dude.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my own podcast and kind of what I'm doing now, just for fun with all of that, I got into writing probably 3 years ago, and it was kind of around the same time when I got a lot more into reading, right after I actually finished university, and I gave reading an actual chance because I got to pick my own books and kind of got to choose what I actually wanted to learn. and I got really into it, and I started writing and everything just to build my resume. It was literally just a task with an end goal. And then I got published on a cool couple websites, and I just started feeding off that. And I was like, this is really neat being able to do this. So one thing went to another, one thing led to another, I should say. And then I made a website. Then I decided I wanted to redo the website. Then I got really into kind of managing just web applications and learning that whole side of things with marketing and whatnot. And to kind of compact a long story, basically I work in Toronto at an ad agency doing that kind of thing now, because I have an end goal in mind of where that can get me, and I also just really like doing it. And then I love creating content. So that's pretty much where I am now, just using my podcast as an excuse to have really good conversations.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I do the same thing. So, but that's really awesome. So should we start at the beginning?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start with you, though.
You want me to go first?
I want you to go first.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So by the beginning, you mean how I got into...
Yeah, how you got into spirituality and mindset stuff, and like where it began for you.
Okay. Yeah, of course. So I would say that I got into personal growth stuff initially. I had no idea that it would lead me down a little bit more of a spiritual path, but I basically... I'll go way back, because even before that, I had kind of an interesting childhood, not really childhood, but when I was an adolescent. And my parents were always kind of like, go to school, like play these normal organized sports. And I did play a lot of sports growing up too. But then I got obsessed with snowboarding, and it's this like weird unstructured sport where you meet all these weird people, and everyone who's an adult in that world is doing really cool, interesting things. And I did pretty well with that, and I just got fully obsessed. And then at a certain point, right when I was about to finish university, I had kind of a falling out with a girl who I was hoping things were going to get a lot more serious with, who I was kind of off and on with for a little while. And then I also tore my ACL, and my whole plan was that right when I was going to finish school, I would just go fully into snowboarding and start pursuing it like 110%. I was going to move to Whistler and kind of try and get back into the groove of things with competing and sponsorship and whatnot. So when I tore my ACL, I literally went into depression, and I was like super sad, didn't know what to think. And I finished university, and that's when I started reading. So I naturally decided I was going to read self-help books and personal growth books. And we talked about this before, but the first book I picked up was The Power of Now. And I think you said it was the first one you picked up too, which is such a fun coincidence.
Yeah, it was given to... Well, it was, my cousin told me about it. I was going through a tough time as well, and she told me to read that book.
And it's an awesome book, you know?
Yeah.
I haven't reread it since then.
No.
Looking back,
it's really overwhelming. It's
yeah,
overwhelming.
Yeah, the language is so complex in that, but it's really eye-opening too, that there's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
And from there, I just... honestly, one thing led to another. That's right when I started writing as well. And my writing, if anyone were to check out my website, is really all kind of my own brand of personal analyzing and just self-awareness. Mm-hmm. So it's personal growth content, I would say.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. It's great stuff. It's like good writing.
Yeah, thank you.
If you haven't checked it out, check it out.
Yeah, go read some. I mean, I love it. It's like a nice way for me to express myself, and yeah, I've just got super into it, and I've gone to all these different areas because in my mind, there's so many different facets of being the best version of yourself. And you can start with the easiest ones, which in reality, I do think they're the easiest ones, which is your physical health. Eat better, sleep better, exercise better. And then you go into the mindset stuff. And then there's the spirituality of knowing who you are and what you actually want. And it just goes from there. And eventually it just all comes together, and you kind of finally hit this point where you feel like you get it. And it's always hard to kind of keep it rolling in the right direction. But yeah, I just got super into it. I've read so many books and written so many articles about it at this point. I spend so much time watching YouTube stuff and listening to podcasts about it because everything brings value into my life. So it's just become part of my lifestyle basically at this point.
Yeah. And when you first started getting into all this stuff, so what you said that you started reading and you got into personal development books. Did someone tell you to, or like how did it go down that path? Because I know for a lot of people, like especially around our age, younger people, it can kind of seem like this weird thing. Like I was always really resistant to it because I was like, who does that except for depressed people or alcoholics or whatever? It was like this weird thing. But how did that kind of specifically happen for you?
I honestly just started Googling. I literally just started Googling like ways to make myself feel better, or like I fully came across it on my own.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Like nobody gave it to me.
Yeah.
I think like I've struggled with that at times, but I've always had an internal locus of control like that, where if there's something going on, my mindset will be, all right, how can I fix this, or how can I make this work?
Right.
So that was how I got into it, to be honest.
Right. And did you have any resistance? Did you ever feel like, oh, that it was like a weird thing for you to be doing, or you like fully embraced it from the beginning?
I think at different points. I think literally when I started actually meditating, that was a big kind of boundary for me, where I was, my whole perspective was like, meditating, that's way out there. That's like, I'm not like a Buddhist guy in a temple. I'm just like some dude in my house in like Ontario. So that was one boundary. I think once you get into the more spiritual stuff too, it's kind of a hard thing to cross into. But I'm going to quote you because I listened to one of your podcasts earlier today.
Oh, shit.
I did my homework.
Oh, God.
But you said this one thing that I think defines it so well. And you were like, people misinterpret spirituality and all this as some crazy thing, and they look at it and judge it and go, that stuff doesn't work. That doesn't give you results. But that's not the purpose of any of it. The purpose of all that is to make you feel better about what you're doing and what you have going on, and to have a better approach so that you can make things happen and so that you can make things work.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's it. Gee, go me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't know where it comes from.
You said it as if it was like one of your trademark statements.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I guess it probably fits into that somewhere, because I'm really like into you being in control of your outcomes and being the cause and not being at effect. But sometimes I get in front of the microphone and it just comes out and I'm like, wow, go Brooke. Good for you. That's really cool. That's an awesome story. And it's good that you found that, because a lot of people don't. And also that you embraced it, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people think it's super weird, especially young people. But that's kind of how we connected, is through this stuff, having like a similar interest. So it's really awesome to see people picking this up and going along with it and embracing it. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially guys too. Especially guys.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later. Yeah. So, how did you get into all of the kind of coaching, what you're doing now, and just being into the overall kind of personal growth world and the whole process?
So, like I said, the Power of Now book was recommended to me by my cousin. So I was going through a breakup. I had been with someone we were only together for 2 years, and I don't think I've even shared this part of the story with you because it's kind of intense. But so we were together for 2 years, we were engaged, and then towards the end of the relationship, I found out he had been cheating on me a lot throughout the whole thing. And then the relationship ended because it was like, it got really, really bad to the point that I went to hospital. He was like the worst. So then I was, it was bad.
Whoa.
It was bad. And so I was like in a really bad spot, really bad. And my cousin recommended the book to me. And so I read it. And at the time, I just didn't really understand it. It can be hard to understand all of that stuff.
Definitely.
So it took me, I read it, I think I probably read each page twice because I just could not understand it. But that was kind of the seed for me. The seed was planted. And then after that, I still didn't really pick up personal development for a long time. It would have been a good couple of years until I really got into it. But I always had in the back of my mind, the only moment is the present moment. Like, focus on that. This is the only moment. Even though I understood the words, but I didn't understand how it was real and how it applied for the longest time. And I would say it's probably only recently that I've fully been able to comprehend what that means. But about a little while ago, actually, like a couple of years ago, it all kind of came flooding back. So I was really unhappy with a whole lot of stuff. I was still dealing with the end of that relationship, dealing with all that stuff, and I hadn't gotten over it yet in terms of mentally. It was still affecting me, and I was still angry from it and frustrated and blaming and a victim. But I kind of was thinking, this can't be the only way. I can't be the only person in life who is miserable. I see all these other people happy and having a good life. What is the difference? And then it kind of clicked, and I was like, the only difference is what's going on in my head. And so it snowballed from there, and then it just kind of snowballed. And then I started reading more personal development books, and the next one I read was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And also another podcast called The Life Coach School by Brooke Castillo. I don't know if you've ever listened to that.
I have never even heard of it.
Oh, it's so good. I listened to the first episode, and it's something like why you're not getting the results or something you say you want, or something along those lines. And I seriously listened to that episode, and I was mind blown. And all she said was, you can choose your thoughts. You can choose what thoughts you want to have, what thoughts you want to get rid of. You can create thoughts that you want. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Why hasn't anyone ever told me this before? And then it just kept on getting bigger and bigger, and I got more into personal development stuff. I also started meditating, and then I was doing fitness coaching at the time, so online fitness coaching, because I was doing bodybuilding competitions. And then I quickly realized that I didn't actually like doing workout programs for people. I don't care about that. It's so boring. And also, people know what to do at the gym. People know that you need to go to the gym and you need to lift a weight or you need to run on the treadmill. You don't need a coach to tell you what to do. That's not real. Even when you have a coach, that's not what they're coaching you on. They're giving you the guidance and the support and whatever other mindset stuff that is really important. So I realized that's really what people needed help with, and that was what I liked talking about and helping people with the most. So then I decided to transition into just life and success coaching, and then here we are.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's so true. There was the first girl named Lauren who I did my first episode with. She was a business coach, and she basically helped people with their online strategy. So she helped with that side, but she also did the mindset stuff. And what she told me multiple different stories, and there were a lot of, she focused on women as well, so female entrepreneurs. And a lot of the time it's these women who have awesome businesses, or they have literally, the one lady had a book written, and it's like an awesome book, and she just needed someone there to kind of encourage her to promote it.
Yeah.
And she published her book and made like $250,000 on the first day.
My gosh.
And it just like, obviously it's just done amazing things since then. But imagine she just never published that. She had that book ready for 3 years and she just never published it until she paid for a coach to just kind of support her through it.
Yeah.
It's like,
awesome.
It's almost like the accountability of having someone there. Once you've paid for someone to help you, there's a huge accountability.
Yep.
Because you're not gonna let them call you again and ask you, hey, how's it going with that project? And just tell them, hey, oh yeah, I did nothing.
Yeah, especially when you invest money in something. So I see money as just energy, and it's an energy exchange. And when people kind of put that energy into themselves, someone pays $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 for a coach. That's huge, and that's not something that you're just gonna be like willing to drop and forget about. When you do that kind of exchange and put money on something, like, you're so much more likely to take action rather than when you haven't invested anything like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, this is kind of like off the record, but how I was just telling you that I want to do a bunch of video projects. And I've been like trying to be cheap about it. And in my head, I know that I just need to make sure that I buy a sweet camera, whatever kind of camera it is. And then I'll do something with it. Yeah. Because I'm not going to waste that, you know? Yeah. I'm not just going to waste those resources that I put into it.
Exactly. And I've helped people for free. I've like coached some people for free at the beginning. And I offered free calls to people. They wouldn't show up. they wouldn't do the stuff. So there are some people that do the stuff, even though it's free. I do help some people out and give them like free access to my course. I have a mindset course. It's only $33, but there are some people that I'm like, I'll give it to you because I know you're going to do it. But the majority of people, they don't. So yeah, definitely when you attach the money to it, and then you have it's not just giving money to something, it's also paying for someone to help you and guide you and support you. Someone who's like a couple steps ahead and knows what you're going through and has the tools and techniques to help you get to where you want to be, and can be an objective perspective and say, all right, this is actually what you need to do. If you're scared of this thing, why are you scared of this? Why aren't you doing this thing? What are you afraid will happen? What won't happen? And have someone from the outside look in, because your ego gets in the way, and the ego is just like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't need to ask myself these hard questions. So I've had plenty of coaches and wouldn't take it back at all.
Yeah, that's cool. See, that's one thing that, I mean, kind of being somewhat in this industry for a little while now. I wouldn't say I'm in the industry because I'm not like running a business, but...
Well, you're in it though.
I'm fully in it, and I see a lot of people, and I meet a lot of people, and people message me through my website, and I message other people, and end up with a lot of unique connections. But there's a lot of people I come across who are coaches, but they kind of, it's so obvious that they just went to like, they even will talk about it sometimes, where they're like, yeah, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and now I'm a coach because I just like, you know, it's just possible. I just see it now. But I've already noticed, I've only known you for like a few weeks now, and you seem to, like, you're investing in all these different avenues. So you're investing in all these different courses that are costing you a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So you're like getting all these tangible things that you can help people with. It's not just you kind of deciding that you're established to be a coach.
Yeah.
Which is honestly a common thing in that whole sphere of things, which kind of takes away from everyone like you who's actually got all these certifications and stuff.
Yeah. And the certifications, like, if you're good at what you do, they're not necessary. There are some people that go into it after going to like one personal development event, and they're like, okay, now I'm a coach, and they're not in it for the right reasons, and they're not going to be good coaches. And then there are some people who just can do it because they're really good at it, and they do it, and like they're good coaches, and they don't necessarily have the certifications, and that's fine as long as they're getting the results and they're not like saying that they can cure mental health issues or whatever. That's fine. But then even having the training, it is, I can't even explain how different it is going through all the certifications and the training stuff. It's like I can provide so much more value and help in so many more different ways that I couldn't before. And it's like, yes, I will keep paying so I can help people so much more than like I currently can. And I signed up for the master practitioner training as well. So I'm going to do master practitioner training because I'm like, people need this. People need to know this stuff, and it's amazing.
What is that?
So the training that I did before was just like your intro level NLP, hypnotherapy, time techniques, and EFT. So I'm certified to do those things, but then the next level up is master practitioner training. So then it's master hypnotherapist, master NLP, like just the next level. So the training that I just went through was 7 days, and the master prac is 2 weeks. 2 weeks of training.
Is it with the same...
Yeah, it'll be with the same person.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I'm huge on is kind of, it's the neuroplasticity of the human mind. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the way you walk around in your normal life and the way that things happen to you and the way that you interact with things are based on beliefs and thoughts, things that are pre-programmed into the way that you are.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be that way. They were programmed into you over years, and obviously when you're a child, you're more of a sponge than any other time, and kind of things that are told you, things that you experience kind of shape that a lot.
Yeah.
And like what your parents, I could go into like down that whole rabbit hole if I wanted, but if you can program that then, you can reprogram it now.
Yeah.
And it's such a real thing, honestly. Like I used to have so many way shittier ways of thinking back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's just like amazing how different your mindset can change. Like I'll just use a really simple example. The day I started my website, I had a buddy who he was also very into personal growth stuff. He was probably one of the only other people at the time I knew who was. And his name's Rodrigo. I actually have an episode with him. Super awesome dude. But he, where was I going with this?
Mine started your website.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a YouTuber at the time, and he had these awesome videos, like really sweet content, and kind of him just talking about himself and how he like is afraid in these moments, and how if he just accepted himself, then he wouldn't have to hold himself back, like really self-aware stuff. And I said it to him. I was like, we need to do a podcast, man. You and I need to do a podcast. And then it sunk in, and I was like, I can't do this. That's terrifying. I'm incapable of doing that 100%. And that's just like a whole shift from where I was then to where I am now.
Yeah.
And there's been so many different things along that route. And I'm huge into reprogramming your mind with affirmations, and like I've met a lot of people in the last year who are obsessed with that, and they literally have things like plastered all over their walls, and they're some of the people doing the coolest things that I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I think I told you about a few of them.
Yeah.
And
it's so true though. Like all of that, and people don't learn this. No one tells us this. No one says, hey, you don't have to think that way. Like it sometimes takes people going to rock bottom, or like getting in a really shitty experience for them to discover personal development and then go in that rabbit hole. And then, like I said, I listened to that one podcast episode, and my whole perspective changed. And I was like, oh my God, I can choose my thoughts. I can choose what I believe. I don't have to just believe this random thing that my parents have been saying for years. And like, it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you stop kind of limiting yourself with like shitty negative thoughts, then you can make little steps in the right direction, and one thing builds on another.
Yeah.
Like I use this example all the time, but about a year and a half ago, I was literally sitting in my hometown. I was back living in my hometown doing nothing, without a job. And I was literally doing nothing. And I felt so negative, and I like literally like my confidence was like shrinking by the day because I was just doing nothing. And I came across all this stuff again. I kind of like had a big lull where I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
And I came across this stuff again, and I just kind of started making myself aware of what I needed to do and ways to think. And I just made sure that I got a job. I made sure that I got some freelance jobs to like make some side money. I made sure that I started lining things up for what would come next. And it just, one thing led to another, and now I'm like miles ahead from where I was just a year and a half ago. And I feel way more secure in pushing even farther because now I have that solid kind of base formed, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and when you found personal development again, like, was that the thing that made you like start to make the changes again? Or yeah, it wasn't.
Definitely.
Like, yeah.
Well, there was kind of a story behind it as well. Like, I don't know if I told you this, but I might have. But I was going to move to Vancouver, and I had my heart set on it.
Yeah.
And I was ready to go, literally had my stuff packed in boxes. And then I had some friends who were there. And it's funny how things just work out to like synchronicity, right? Like things sometimes just can't be a coincidence.
Yeah.
But I got a few freelance jobs out of nowhere, out of thin air. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stick around and finish these quickly. And I was spending some time with this girl at the time, and things were getting more and more kind of serious between us. And then my friends whose house I was literally going to live at in Vancouver while I got started, they were kind of talking to me, and they were like, man, it's hard out here to get started. Like entry-level work is hard to find out here. And the wages are way lower than like Ontario, but living expenses are way higher. And not that would necessarily be completely deterred by that. If I want to live somewhere, I'll live there, you know? But there were all these different signs being like, don't go. Like, it's just not going to. And then I had nothing going on, and I was kind of seeing this girl. So I had nothing else going on for myself. So that relationship just naturally started being my only thing.
Yeah.
And it made it not work, right? So I sat around a few weeks later, and I was like, all right, look at this. This is because I have nothing going on. So that is when I kind of jumped into all this self-help content again. Mm-hmm. And this is a perfect transition because I wanted to bring this up, but I came across a few different books, kind of a wide range of topics, but the law of attraction was a huge one. And there's all this crazy spiritual stuff with the law of attraction. And I totally believe in synchronicity, like I mentioned. Like sometimes, I've always believed this, even since I was like a young kid, that things just are too big of a coincidence to not have meant to happen that way. Like there's sometimes things are just way too crazy. Like when you haven't thought of someone or something in like 10 years, and then you think of them, and then 2 minutes later something else happens related to them, and then you know what I mean?
Totally.
And that kind of stuff just kept happening to me. I ended up diving into this law of attraction stuff. And though it goes into a really kind of magical realm sometimes, where it took me is that what it preaches is complete personal responsibility.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like always attracts like. And it's always true, whether you believe in the magical side or just the practicality of that concept. Yeah. So, you know, if I'm sitting around and I'm not in a very good vibration at all, you know, I'm like probably slightly selfish with my friends or people I'm in a relationship with, you know, I may be not making the best impression at work, all these things. You're at a low vibration and good things are not going to come to you. Your friend's going to appreciate you less. Your friends aren't going to invite you out to do awesome things when they have like free tickets, whatever. Like that's just like a hilarious example because I somehow like got free tickets to so many things this summer. But yeah, it's so real. Like when you fully decide that you are going to be the reflection of everything that you want to come back to you, it's so empowering and it's so real too.
Yeah. So did you find that when you were living back at home and you were feeling like really down and like were a bit depressed, that it was like feeding, and you said it was getting worse every day? Do you think that was because of just that like low vibe and like attracts like, so each day it was just getting worse and worse because you weren't like doing anything about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And like I even know when I feel shitty or I'm like grumpy or angry or whatever, and shit stuff starts happening to me, even just like walking outside, someone will be really rude to me. I'm in a bad mood and I'm at a super low vibe, and then someone at a grocery store will be super rude, or I'll like bad stuff will happen. Not bad stuff, but like, you know, you just see more shitty stuff until you can like click into it and just say, oh wait, actually this is all me. I'm attracting this other really shitty stuff. And then you can kind of take control of it from there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it preaches a lot of emotional maturity too. It like, if you believe in the law of attraction, you will inherently become emotionally mature.
Yeah.
At least if you're actually practicing what you're preaching.
Yeah.
Because every time you're getting rattled about something that's pointless in the big picture, you'll step back and be like, the negative vibes that I'm putting out there just from even thinking this aren't even worth it.
Yeah.
They literally aren't even worth it.
Yeah.
So it makes you question every time that something is bothering you.
Yeah.
And that, in my mind, is really what consciousness is in general. That's what consciousness is, you know?
Yeah.
You're aware of your thoughts.
And not to say that any of this is like you can't feel sad or angry because then you're going to have a shitty life. But so like I still feel sad all the time. I cry when I need to cry. I get angry when I need to get angry. But it's the awareness of saying, all right, I have this negative emotion, negative state, but I'm responsible for either getting out of that or staying in it. It's not that these emotions control you. You get to control them. So you can stay in a low vibe and be angry and be rude and be a mean person, and eventually like a bad day becomes a bad personality. But the point of all this stuff, law of attraction and mindset stuff, is that you can control that. You're allowed to feel your feelings, but you're responsible for all your outcomes and all your experiences. And like I said earlier, I am 100% fully believe that everyone should be at cause and not at effect of outside world experiences, emotions. Fully take responsibility, and that's what law of attraction is.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Kind of, I guess, on topic, but a little bit of a side note. We're going to talk about it anyway. So when you started getting into law of attraction, did you have any resistance to that? Or like, how did that come up? Because at first, so for me, law of attraction, the first time I ever heard about it was through the book The Secret. The movie, actually. I haven't read the book and I haven't seen the movie, but someone told me that it was like, oh, you just think something and you get it. And I was like, that's stupid and it doesn't work. But for you, is that like, how did you come across it? And how did you, yeah, tell me that.
How did I come across it? That's a really tough one. So I heard of The Secret years and years ago. I literally think that I was just watching YouTube videos from other stuff, and I just came across like some YouTubers who just mentioned law of attraction here and there. And I was just like, law of attraction? That sounds like something I should learn more about.
Oh, wow.
I think it was completely just a coincidence like that.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I'm
you
just
were
somebody
fully
who's
accepting
always
of it?
digging, right? Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't have any resistance?
No. I mean, I'm a really like law of attraction in a weird way. So let's say people who believe in God, they just have this belief that there's something else going on.
Yeah.
There's some God, there's not a guy, there's a God, whether
Yeah.
he's a man or a
Well,
female.
they call him a man.
Yeah, they call him a man. But they just believe that he's there, right? And I have always kind of worded it this way, but I grew up Christian. I'm not from like a super Christian household or anything like that. Like I came from a family that barely ever went to church or anything. But technically I'm a Christian. But I've never really identified as like, I believe in God. I believe the Bible is a set of real stories and rules. Like, but what I do believe in is that there's something going on here.
Yeah.
And the law of attraction is kind of like, it's just another way of expressing that. It's like, there's something else going on here, you know? Like, we can't explain it. There's something that happens when you die. There's something that's going on here, like, day to day, in the way that you act, in the way that you are, in the way that you think. And so, I don't know. I've always just been really open-minded to things like that. If something, I really don't know. It's just like, I just believe it. I just believe that there's something else going on here, and I think the law of attraction kind of plays into that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And the only reason I'm like so intrigued by it and is because for me, just the idea of a guy being into spirituality, I haven't really come across any normal guys who are into this kind of stuff. And I know we've spoken about this before, that it's mostly women that are into this kind of stuff and that speak about it. Whether or not, like, maybe there are guys that are into it and they just don't talk about it. But yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. It's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad that that's the feedback I'm getting, like from you and other people. So I'm just going to explain that a little further. But like a few weeks ago, I was just ran into this girl I know, and she was talking to me about my podcast, and she was asking me like, what are you trying to do with all this? And my response was, well, I just want to have an excuse to have cool conversations.
Yeah.
And she basically said, well, you have this theme going on, though. Like, you wouldn't have this random theme if it was just to talk about stuff. And I literally had never realized it until that moment. But there, in the spiritual world in general, with personal growth and mindfulness in particular, and spirituality, there's not many good resources for just normal dudes. And there is some guy stuff out there, but it's like, it's either some like totally nomad dude who like has hair down to his knees and lives on like a hut in Hawaii, or it's this guy who's a yoga dude.
Or like a Tony Robbins or whatever, which is like
way too...
Yeah, that's too much.
And I really am just a normal dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, I don't practice any of that really out there stuff that often. I practice all of this whole kind of concept regularly in my life. And I realized there's this huge lacking there. And that's kind of something that I want my kind of podcast and everything to take on the theme of.
Yeah.
And I didn't even tell you this yet, but ironically, I was actually sitting with my friend Chris, who I did one of my last episodes with. He's a super spiritual guy too, like really into all this stuff. And we're in LA, just like, you meet so many random people there, right? Who are just doing cool stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I describe it, you know, when you're in Toronto and everyone's just kind of getting it. You're walking around downtown and it's kind of motivating. You see all these people getting it, but they're all like people in business suits who are like, they work at banks and law firms. LA was like that, but it's all creatives, which is so cool. It's like people who are getting it, but they're writers and directors and like, and coaches and like there's like so many different things. But So one of the people I met was this guy, and I told him about my podcast, and the first thing he said was, you know what? I go to meditation centers probably once a week or so around here. And the one thing that I really don't like is I go into all these meditation centers and there's very few guys. All the guys they're not really like me. Like, I'm just a normal dude. He was such a normal dude. And there's like, they come in, they lay crystals around everyone, and they do these like kind of really out there stuff. And he's like, I just want to go in there and like meditate and clear my head and, just get the good practicalness of it so that I can get on with what I'm doing. Because he was a dude who was like really well esteemed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was an author and he owned like a startup with his buddy. And he just was a practical dude who practiced all this stuff and just wanted a really realistic approach to benefiting his own life from it all.
Yeah.
And he expressed that same thing without me even telling him that. So I've just noticed this giant gap.
Yeah, there is a giant gap, and I've told you need to fill it.
I hope I can.
Yeah,
I hope
you
I
can. Like, this is the start, but yeah, that's really cool. And even I think, so you're so right. All of that stuff, like, it's so female dominated, and there isn't, maybe the reason that there is not a lot of guys kind of getting into this stuff is because it is so female dominated. And I understand that, like, I like crystals. I mean, they're pretty, sure, they're pretty. Okay, I don't want to get too far into crystals, but I wouldn't want to go to a meditation center and have them put around me. Even though I like them, that's not what I want from meditation either. But there are people like me and you who are coming into it and coming into this space, and we're the beginning of saying, let's make this normal and accessible and not weird and not hippie and not with crystals and patchouli everywhere. So this is where we come in to fill that gap, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's neat. I mean, ever since that conversation with that guy, I've been emailing with him a little bit too. I think I'm going to have a Skype call and talk about it, but I've been just brainstorming, like, how can I fill that gap?
Yeah. Well, that's the putting that intention out there into the universe of how can I fill that gap? Now you've put that intention out there, law of attraction, synchronicities, this is how it all works. It's all going to start coming to you soon. So you need to make sure that you're ready to receive the stuff that you're going to get from the universe and the downloads, and you're not just going to be like, that's silly, can't do that. That's silly, can't do that. Because the reason that you're going to get these ideas and all that stuff coming through is because the universe is like, all right, we've got someone who's ready, let's go, and just give you so many ideas. So some of it's probably going to seem really weird, but that's kind of the sign. Whenever I get a really weird idea, I'm like, that's a sign that I need to do that, even though it's weird and I haven't seen anyone do that before. I have this idea for a reason, and it's going to be the same for you. So I don't know what you've come up with. You haven't told me what you've come up with so far in your brainstorms, but...
Yeah, I've got some ideas, but nothing is totally solid. Yeah, I've messaged a few people about it. Some guys who are just like me. So those are the kind of people I need to be connecting with more right now too, right?
Yeah, and definitely doing stuff more male focused to get more guys into this stuff. As a woman, I know, like, we connected because we were both into this same stuff. And for people I know, like, getting into relationships or whatever, it's like, all right, well, it's highly unlikely I'm going to find a guy who is into this kind of stuff. So he either needs to be supportive of it and not tell me I'm stupid, or he just needs to, like, kind of put up with it. So it's, like, nice to see. And I know there are probably a lot of women out there that would be really grateful for males to get into this kind of stuff. And I know there's a lot of things that, like, let men do their own thing and women do their thing because, like, we need our thing too. But no, this isn't one of those things, like, at all. So yeah, it's so cool that we're seeing so many more normal, down-to-earth guys getting into this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's gonna happen more and more.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like, I don't know if you've heard all about the kind of, people have talked about it for a long time, that a consciousness shift is happening right around this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that really that's kind of what it is. It's just more people becoming aware of the fact that the human mind is such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more behind what it can do.
Yeah.
And everything really is the power of your mind, you know?
Have you ever seen a video of neurons in the brain wiring and like making new connections and disconnecting from old connections.
I don't know. Is
It's
that the one
really
where
cool.
it looks like an electrical charge goes in and then it just spreads around like a web?
No, well, that's
Okay.
what happens
Okay.
when stuff is fired through neurons and the electrical energy fires and goes through all the connections. But there's videos that I've seen of neurons connecting to new neurons to making new connections. So when you think a new thought or learn something new, there's a new wire created, and then like when you want to get rid of something, it unwires and like it's so cool. It's really, really cool. You have to watch it.
Yeah, send me it. I
Yeah,
want to
see if
see
I
it.
can find it somewhere. But it's so, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's happening in my head right now. I learned something new, and these neurons that are in there move around. They move and find another neuron to connect to.
Yeah.
It's so insane. I saw that and I was like, whoa, seriously.
I mean,
It's
the
wild.
power of the human mind is actually insane.
Yeah.
Like this episode was not really about mindfulness, but my last episode was with a friend of mine who became a pro snowboarder.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit his head a couple years ago and was in a coma.
Oh, wow.
And they said he was going to die, and he survived. And then they told him he was going to be paralyzed. And then they told him that his whole left side his motor skills were going to be horrible. And he was just in there, like, he's such a determined guy. Like, people who become pros at things are determined people, right? And he was in there learning how to walk and talk again. He couldn't even speak or write or walk or do anything. And he he had to learn all of that all over again. And that was after they had to like cut his brain and like all these different things. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
The brain is
And
so
now he's
plastic. And he's literally like back to normal. It's insane.
Oh, so have you ever, I think we've spoken about Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
So he was kind of a similar story. He was a chiropractor, and then got hit by a car. And it was the same thing. He had a spinal injury, and they told him, you'll never walk again, blah, blah, blah. And now he's like leading the field in meditation and quantum shifting, and
Yeah.
it's
His stuff
insane.
is incredible. I think it's some of my favorite stuff
yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I read his book quite a while ago, and I loved it.
Which one?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Okay.
And then recently, even actually since we talked the last time, so I've started getting to his stuff way more. Actually, since we talked, so much stuff has come up, like popping up for quantum shifting, YouTube videos, books, all that kind of stuff. So much for quantum shifting has been popping up. It's kind of weird. It's like one of those synchronicity things.
Yeah.
Like the universe is pushing me down that path. It's really cool. But that's
Wants
what he
you to
does.
read more.
Yeah. And weird webinars just were popping up, and I was like, I got a spare 2 hours. Sure, I'll watch this webinar on quantum shifting. I don't know why, but it's a sign. I use that as a sign. Or the teacher, what do they say? When the teacher appears when the student
Is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think that's kind of
And
what it is.
That statement is so true. You know,
Yep.
you won't learn until you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the whole you have to hit rock bottom thing kind of happens.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
you have to be literally so fed up or have screwed up so bad from your habits or tendencies before you literally look around and go, wow, I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that it kind of gets that way, but it might also be a good thing, because then you go through the experience and you can add so much more value when you know, like, I have been through something so shit that when I can get through that and add value for other people, I'll know where they're coming from, and I'll know I've gone leaps and bounds, and that it's possible for anyone else to do as well. But it's wild. Quantum shifting.
Yeah.
It's real.
I mean,
real.
that
That's a
stuff is
whole nother
wild.
topic,
I need to dive into that a little more before I can talk about it.
It's crazy. So I watched this video. We actually did talk about this, about the double slit experiment or
Yep.
something. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
But I found this one YouTube video that explained that really, really simply, because I was trying to look it up and I was like, I don't understand what any of this means.
Is it the cartoon one?
It's kind of a cartoon, just a
Okay.
random weird dude talking, but he explains it so well, and this kind of ties all back into choosing what you want to think and what you want to feel, because nothing has any meaning until it's observed and meaning is applied. which is kind of how that all comes in. So with the quantum shifting, nothing exists until it is observed existing, or it can exist in all states until it's observed existing. I think, don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong on like the whole science, but that's kind of how I interpret it and how it makes sense to me. And also with your thoughts or with your experiences that happen in your reality, nothing has meaning, nothing is good or bad until you label it that way. So you could walk down the street and someone could yell something at you and you could say, that's terrible, that person was rude to me, I feel really bad, I'm angry, blah, blah, blah. Or you could just say, well, that was kind of funny. So it's, yeah, kind of all ties in really nicely there, I feel like.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm going to give a little bit of context here. So the double slit experiment, in a nutshell, they shot a bunch of atoms through a slit. And atoms hit the wall in a wave. So atoms are basically they're such a small form of matter that they're not a physical object anymore. And when you shoot them at a wall, basically a wave will come out of the gun. But as soon as you put a camera out there and you literally try and watch the atom hit the wall to understand why it hits a wave, it'll hit it like a ball. It'll be like as if you're shooting like a bullet at the wall. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, when you watch matter, it reacts differently.
Yeah.
So that is where the really kind of magical side that is super debatable, everyone can argue whatever they believe. But that's something that physics and nobody on this earth can explain.
Yeah.
But when you watch matter, it reacts differently. So that's kind of the whole concept that if you visualize only good things and you think only good thoughts and you only are putting out good vibrations, that's how you get the good things, and that's how you make all those things materialize, because you're watching it in a certain way. Yeah. And it's just a wave until you watch it.
There's so many things that, okay, this could all lead into. First of all, let's talk about how you put all of this into practice. So do you have I know you've told me that you have stuff on your walls, but when do you meditate? How do you meditate? What kind of law of attraction stuff do you do? How do you practice all of that?
Yeah, okay. That's a good question. So I literally have like a whiteboard in my room, and I never did this until, I keep quoting my old episodes, which is so funny, but I did an episode with Max Eberhardt. He used to be on the Canadian national team, one of the best pro snowboarders in the world. And then he just had too many concussions and had to retire. And within a year, he was producing songs for Drake. Just like full career shift and right back to the very top, And I was like, how did you do it? I'm still mind blown about how he did it so quickly, because people dream their whole lives about doing that. And he was the first person who told me this out of many since then. He was like, I had all my goals plastered on my walls, and I had affirmations plastered on this giant whiteboard. I have a 6-foot tall whiteboard beside my bed, and I look at that shit every single day. So I literally went to Dollarama like the next day, bought a whiteboard, wrote down all my goals and affirmations, and I read them every single day.
Yeah.
And at the very least, it just keeps everything top of mind. And, it's basically, you tell yourself what you want to believe, and if you do read that first thing in the morning, you can feel that way throughout the day. So I do that. I journal often, and my journal is literally just like pure positivity. There's nothing shitty ever spoken in it. And if it is, it's like just acknowledging the fact that now I'm past that. So those are two ways that I do it, but I think I'm like a complicated person with that question because I do so much,
Yeah.
I go to the gym often, I run often, and it's all because of the way that it affects my mind. And I bike to work because of the way that it sets up my day, because it's like, I feel good, when I get to the office and I'm like able to be a little better than I would be otherwise.
Yeah.
Like almost everything is just like a practice of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I think is setting my content is what I think I like about the content that I write and that I talk about is that I've started taking this different approach on it, where like we look at humans, like we're just hormonal beings, like literally, as much as we can say that we're spiritual beings, we can say that we're like whatever we want to say, like I'm guided by hormones. And like the way that you live, really, there's a lot of things that fully affect those. Are you actually in the natural state of being that allows you to be at your best? Because when you sit on Instagram constantly, and no offense, there's a huge difference between sitting there comparing yourself to people or posting shit that nobody cares about, to be quite frank about what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
And posting content because it's what you're doing. Like, there's a huge difference between what you do and what a lot of other people do. But when you sit on Instagram and you're just like posting really pointless stuff just because of this weird kind of negative feeling that you're trying to get rid of, and you're just sitting there scrolling, comparing yourself to everyone, or this is a touchy topic, but let's say you're just like watching porn to make yourself feel better, which is a huge problem with dudes. That shit fucks with your hormones so badly.
Yeah.
And you can really take control of your mindset in a lot of ways by being aware of the way that what you're doing is affecting those hormone imbalances.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so do you mean like the kind of instant gratification stuff?
yeah.
Or, yeah?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Because
That's what Instagram and porn both are.
Yeah.
It's like instant gratification, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
And they like those hormone imbalances.
Yeah.
It's the newest science that I think is going to be a huge thing soon, because they're literally relating like social media and porn and all these things back to like anxiety, depression, ADD.
Yeah.
All these different things, and impulsiveness, because it literally it creates a pattern of indulging. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Totally.
So those are things that I'm diving into. Like, those are my new school approaches that I think are amazing. They're some of the best things I've ever done to improve my mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And what about meditating? How do you do that? When do you do that?
I forgot I left that one out. You're right.
Yeah. This is an important one because I'm big on meditating.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I love telling everyone else to do it. So, how do you do it?
Literally, I would say I work out at lunch when I'm at work, and I probably go in the sauna 3-4 days a week.
Yeah.
I meditate in the sauna.
Oh, that's
cool.
An
awesome place for it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's kind of challenging too.
Yeah.
But it's like very like a good place for solitude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I meditate pretty often. I usually do guided meditations when I'm at home. I'm going to say half and half. Depends whether my roommates are home or not.
Yeah.
Because I'll do a guided meditation if they're home. Put my headphones in. But yeah, I probably meditate like 5 days a week, I would say.
That's pretty good. Do you do it before work or just before bed?
I don't. Probably like after work. Like, I really do not have a stressful job because I like what I do, and it's just like an awesome work environment. But some days I get home and I'm just like a little too go, and I literally just meditate when I sense that I need to.
Yeah.
I don't really have a routine.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's more like me just listening to.
Yeah. That's cool though.
Yeah.
Do you have a morning routine ritual kind of thing to set you up for the day?
I wish. I wish. I know. I really do. I know so much about what people say about that stuff, but
yeah,
I am bad with mornings. I'm bad with mornings, but I'm aware of that.
When did you decide that?
Good question.
I'm life coaching. It's a life coach session.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I know. That's like a habit I'm so aware of. Honestly, so aware of.
Yeah.
Just need to crack it.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to crack it soon because I've been biking to work, and it's so easy to just get out of bed, bike to work. But now that it's winter, I'm going to have to start taking transit. I got to wake up earlier. I got to
deal with transit
and
people on transit in the winter.
Ready before.
Have you ever caught transit in Toronto in the winter?
Not in the winter. Not in the winter. I'm pretty afraid of it.
You're going to need to meditate. You are going to need to meditate. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's a time.
I'm not a fan of transit.
Yep. I've done that plenty of times.
So we're almost at an hour. Should we dive into a little bit more before we cut this off?
Yeah.
Okay.
What else do you want to talk about?
I want to ask you about this.
Okay.
So I've asked a lot of people about this.
Okay.
Because everyone has a different response. But law of attraction is basically taking complete ownership and creating your future. And you're big into tarot cards and kind of believing that. I mean, I don't know if tarot cards really are that, but do you believe that things are already predefined? Do you think that things turn out a certain way because they're meant to? Because I don't know how you can believe in that and believe in the law of attraction.
Yeah, you know what? So I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I haven't verbalized this kind of thought or idea, but I've come up with this thing lately, this theory I have, that everything that will ever happen, all our memories, everything that's going to happen, like our lives have already all fully happened, and time is a way of our consciousness's way of putting all those memories in a certain order. So even though we think that time is progressing and moving forward and things are happening in a linear fashion, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2018, 2019, that this is just an organization way of doing things, but everything's already all happened in our consciousness. Our consciousness has already experienced everything that we're ever going to experience, but we just have to put it in this order. So this is a thought that I've had that I literally probably formed maybe a week or two ago. It's very recent. So I don't know how that fits into law of attraction, really. I don't know. But I don't know how those two tie in together. And I don't even know if I fully believe in this theory that I came up with. It's just something that's floating around in my head. But I don't...
Did you come up with that theory, or did you
I probably have
read
heard
it
it.
somewhere?
I've
Okay.
probably heard it somewhere, or have put other people's ideas together, or maybe it isn't fully my idea, or maybe someone else has thought of it, but I've also thought of it. I don't know. I don't know. I listen to a
Interesting.
lot of stuff when I'm falling asleep.
Okay.
So if I've heard it and it's kind of gone in unconsciously while I'm falling asleep, I don't know. But my brain is entertaining this idea, at least. It's entertaining it. It didn't push it away. So it's in there. But even so, I still wouldn't leave things and be because maybe this is my path. Maybe if everything has already happened, my path might still be one of following the idea of law of attraction and deciding what my reality is going to look like. Maybe that is what it is for me. And then for someone else who doesn't believe that, theirs is their life that they're unhappy with, and that's their path. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't have a full answer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, I'm an open-minded person, you know. That's the thing. I'm willing to entertain any idea.
Yeah.
Until it's proven to be hilarious or kooky. But yeah, one of my buddies who I was on that trip with, he was like, "Man, you're such a free will guy. Everything about what you believe is free will." Mm-hmm. And I realized yeah, for sure. It's for me, it's a fuel. It's yes, anything can happen.
Yeah.
But that theory is something I've heard many times recently.
Mm-hmm.
And
interesting.
Yeah, a really interesting example of that is a friend of mine several months ago was telling me about an episode of Oprah that Will.i.am was on. You know Will.i.am?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's huge into meditation and stuff.
Right.
And I don't even remember what the question was, but there's a lot of people, it's just the theory that time is not linear. Mm-hmm. That's why there's weird coincidences from the past connecting to the future. There are a lot of weird things sometimes.
Yeah.
You'd have to dive into that to fully be able to believe it, you know? It's easy for me to just say that. It's hard to believe until I've proven examples. I wish I had some. But Will.i.am talked about how he meditated, but he meditates affirmations to his future self and his past self. And as he explains it in such an interesting fashion. But what he was saying was time is not linear. So I know that my old self, before his music career took off, and before he even knew that he wanted a music career, is sitting there struggling, confused, really struggling. And I know that he's there. He's still there because time is not linear. I'm just here right now. Mm-hmm. And there's another version of me in the future who's an old man looking back, and he has his own problems. So he's so when I pray and I meditate, I'm praying to my past self that he can figure it out.
Yeah.
so that I can have the opportunity to be here where I am. And so that
So
this
cool.
older man can be there living well, but
Yeah.
figuring out his own stuff.
Yeah.
And it's such a bizarre concept.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's really out there. That's when it gets really out there. But
yeah.
it's crazy, you know? We all live in this world where nobody knows what's going on.
Nope.
So how can you just shut out the possibility of things being crazy?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. So one of the experiences that I had that kind of added to this idea that I have is in the training, we do this thing called time techniques. And basically, one of the first questions is, so we'll go on to like, what is an emotion that you want to get rid of? Anger. Okay. So then we speak directly to the unconscious mind and say, when was the first time you experienced this emotion of anger? Was it before, during, or after birth? And so whoever you're speaking to, well, like whatever pops up is the answer. Whatever your subconscious mind's answer is, that is what the answer is. So one of the girls, she was like, oh, I think it's like some age, maybe between here and here. And then the trainer was like, it wasn't a solid answer. And so she kind of went along with it. And then the girl was like, no, it was before that. It was at conception. And then she was talking about these experiences. And she was like, afterwards, when she was like back in the room, she said her anger was at conception because she knew later in life she was going to have another experience, a specific experience that made her angry. So at conception, this is when she experienced anger, but it was because of a future event. I know it's so bizarre. It's like really hard to understand. But after that, I was like, this kind of adds into this thought and this theory that I've been working on for a little while. So
interesting.
very interesting.
That was at this past training.
Yeah,
that you were just doing. Okay.
Yeah, time techniques is really weird. Like,
that's when it gets really out there. You know,
mm-hmm.
I just can't wait. Even if we don't know any of it still, there's gonna be a point like 20, 30 years where we know somewhat of some really crazy shit that
mm-hmm.
right now we would look at and be like, that is the nuttiest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna realize that there's a lot. Things are connected, you know?
Yeah.
In some kind of a way, but we're going to be able to explain them a little bit.
Yeah.
And people's minds are just going to be blown.
And it still won't even be all of it. There will still be more. It's not like we're ever going to find the answer to any of this stuff. I don't think we'll ever find the answer. There's always going to be more because we'll get to that next level and be like, whoa, now we see so much more. What's the answer to this?
Yeah.
It's going to just keep going.
For sure.
Yeah.
My thought is that you only know it all once you die. That's when you find out.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally like, that's where I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not necessarily a religious person. I think that when you die, you see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like you like are finally there and you're like, whoa.
But then maybe there's a next level once you die and there's like, maybe death isn't the end.
Maybe.
There's a whole nother level.
I
and
know.
then what happens then? No one knows.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's an awesome note to end on.
Yeah,
we just went like full down this crazy path. That was a good one.
Yeah, cool.